We're taught the resume of a titan. He formulated the 3 laws of motion, mapped the universal pull of gravity, and derived the fundamental language of calculus. History remembers Sir Isaac Newton as the ultimate icon of Enlightenment rationality. He's the face of a universe governed by absolute logic and predictable order. But that version of Newton, the purely logical, detached genius, is a carefully managed historical fiction. The preservation of that fiction ended in 1936. At a Sotheby's auction, 7,500 pages of Newton's private, unseen journals finally surfaced, exposing a mind that operated far outside the boundaries of traditional science. These new manuscripts revealed a paranoid mystic. Thousands of pages documented his efforts to synthesize gold, his rituals in the occult, and his obsession with calculating the exact date of the apocalypse. This shocking discovery forced a difficult question. How did an erratic, secretive alchemist successfully engineer his own legacy to become the premier symbol of the rational age? The source of his brilliance was a radical, isolating obsession born from childhood trauma. Abandoned by his mother at age 3, he developed a personality that viewed the world not through social connection, but through the cold mechanics of objects. This obsessive trait allowed him to thrive during the Great Plague of 1665. While others fled the cities, Newton spent 2 years in absolute isolation at his family estate, obsessively tracking the moon's orbit until he defined the mathematics of gravity. He pursued empirical truth with a terrifying lack of restraint. To see if physical pressure could alter his perception of color, he jammed a blunt sewing needle into his own eye socket, wedging it between the bone and the eyeball until he saw white and colored circles. These discoveries were not the products of calm reflection. They were the results of a mind that acknowledged no physical or psychological boundaries in its search for answers. For 25 years, Newton secretly maintained a laboratory dedicated to alchemy. He believed he could find the recipe for the Philosopher's Stone, a mythical substance he thought held the key to immortality and transmuting common metals. He applied this same search for hidden geometry to the Bible. He treated the scriptures as a literal cryptography puzzle, believing the holy texts contained a hidden numerical code that described the physical structure of the universe. By cross-referencing biblical timelines with astronomical cycles, he calculated that the current world era would end in the year 2060, followed by a divine transition. These views were dangerously unorthodox. He privately rejected the Holy Trinity, a theological stance that would have cost him his prestigious post at Cambridge if he hadn't kept it buried in his journals. For Newton, there was no wall between science and the supernatural. Physics, alchemy, and prophecy were all just different tools used to decode the secret blueprints of God. His years in the alchemy lab eventually broke him. Decades of inhaling mercury vapors likely triggered the mental collapse he suffered in 1693, leaving him in a state of chronic insomnia and intense paranoia, convinced his few friends were plotting his destruction. In his later years, he transitioned from a reclusive researcher to a ruthless administrator. As president of the Royal Society, he used his institutional weight to crush his rivals, specifically orchestrating a campaign to claim sole credit for calculus over the mathematician Gottfried Leibniz. He showed even less mercy to the scientist Robert Hooke. After a dispute over the origins of gravity, Newton is accused of using his institutional power to remove and destroy the only known portrait of Robert Hooke, effectively erasing his rival's face from the historical record. He carried this cold precision to the Royal Mint. He spent his final years hunting counterfeiters with a detective's obsession, personally interrogating criminals and ensuring they faced the gallows. Every action in his final decades was aimed at one goal: sanitizing his history to ensure he was remembered only as the perfect, rational pioneer. We have to discard the myth. The pristine, balanced rationalist never existed. In his place is a volatile, traumatized man who was as much a sorcerer as he was a physicist. There is a deep irony in his occultism. At the time, gravity, an invisible influence acting across a vacuum, was considered an occult concept. It defied the mechanical logic of the era. The same mind that searched for hidden powers in lead and secret codes in scripture was the only one capable of imagining a force that could pull on the moon from across the void. His breakthroughs in physics were a direct extension of his mystical search for the universe's invisible levers. This is the reality of genius. It does not emerge from a state of perfect, calm reason. It is the byproduct of an intense, singular, and often dangerous human obsession.